Well, hi there. It is Melody's World. It is now the actual correct time. It is 7 o'clock Central Standard Time and 6 o'clock Mountain Time. And I'm here because I wanted to talk about something that has really been coming up for me the last couple of days as I've thought about how we approach life and how sometimes we have this sort of rigid way of looking at ourselves, our life. I want to make sure that my volume's up. There we go. And that keeps us stuck in a position, and I thought it kind of broke down into these three different categories. Basically, we either just kind of accept things as they are, or we believe that things should be a certain way, and that we have to hold on to that belief system, have that faith to be able to function in the world and make a difference. And then there's those of us who are seekers, who are just constantly curious about what is the way, what is all of this about, right? And probably, the two ways that tend to get the most easily sort of processed, most people, I think, will just be in this place of, yeah, it is what it is, right? And not questioning perhaps the way things are. And I think that's partly how we got into this whole mess with the 13 families and the elites and all that stuff, because people just accepted it because it's been true for so long that we just kind of went, okay, that's just how it is. And I certainly have been there, because when I first heard about this stuff, it was like, what am I going to do? It's just me and a few dozen other people that really understand this. I know it was more than that, but that's how it felt at the time. And the idea of being able to change that or expose that system was well out of my own reach, for sure, because I was, mom with 5 kids I was taking care of, and I couldn't see any way to do anything except just accept things the way they are at the time. And yet, underneath the surface, there's also been this belief system that I think most Americans have had, or at least wrestled with in their life, which is the idea of the Roman or the Anglican version of Christianity, or some other sort of Orthodox faith that got passed down, and we accept that as being the word and believe that as being our faith, and never question that either, right? So with everything that's been happening in the world in the last couple of years, but especially in the last year, I think it's becoming more and more obvious to a lot of us that we can't stay in that old belief system, and we can't stay in that place of just accepting what is and feel good about ourselves, because at our core, that's not who we are. At our core, we are so much more than that, right? And how do we move from being an acceptor who just kind of accept, well, this is the way it is, or a believer who's like, well, it is the way it is, but God will hold his judgment, and I don't have to, and I can just trust that and keep doing what I'm doing and go about my life living the way I think God would have me live. And yet that whole the whole Christian the traditional way of looking at Christianity has been that patriarchal, controlling, dominant force that's easy, because then we just turn over our own judgment to someone else, and we can say, well, I may not understand why that person is behaving that way or doing those things, but God acts in mysterious ways, and that's what I've been told, what I've been taught, and so I just have to go back to accepting that and believing that things are the way they are because God wanted it that way, right? And then you wrestle with all this when you have more connection with yourself. And the more connected you are with yourself, I think the more we start questioning and becoming more of a seeker. And so I think, honestly, what's happening is more people today are becoming seekers, where more of us are moving into this field of going, okay, what is really going on here? What is it we really need to do? What is it that the world needs from me? What is it that I could be doing, thinking, or feeling differently? What is it that I truly am? What is my spirit? What is that? And what am I supposed to do with that? And what are we all supposed to do with that? And you see people reacting in this very judgmental way, which, God, believe me, I can understand, to some of the horrific things that we've been learning about. Well, I've known about for a while, but most people are just learning about. And it's I think a human, very human response to just be appalled and horrified by these things that have been happening, because it's horrible and it's appalling that these things could happen. So then people who have a strong faith are like, well, how could God let this happen? How could that? And that kind of starts to throw you out of that belief system and more into a place of seeking, which I think we have to be in. We have to shift out of a rigid view of ourselves and the world and be willing to consider that maybe there's more here to this story. And I can't say I know what it is. I'm a seeker. I'm definitely a seeker. And I'm definitely not understanding, the whole purpose of things. But I also know that I can't know the whole purpose of anything, my own life, let alone anything else. But what I can do is trust that there is more here inside than there is outside. There is more inside of me. There's more knowledge, wisdom, connection with spirit that I'm going to get outside of myself. There are places where I can go and connect with others who are also connecting inside of themselves, which is beautiful. I've done that a couple of times this week, and it's been lovely. And when we can do that, it as it says in the Bible, is two or more are gathered here. It just magnifies that experience of what's happening in the self, because we are not separate, and we think we are. Just been studying this book called The Way of Mastery, and it's definitely part of the philosophy of that comes down to Jesus was saying, hey, we are as much a part of God as anyone else, and that we're none of us separate from each other. Even though we have separate bodies, we may have separate lives, we may have separate sides of the world that we live on, separate ways of looking at things, separate ways of being and behaving and living our lives, but we're not separate. That all of those parts of us, we are all part of the body of God. Now, I know, I'm sounding religious here, like I'm a minister, which I guess I am in a way. But my point being that part of the seeking is learning to accept not only that other people are the way they are, and we're not going to change them. In fact, it's not our job to change them, but that our purpose is to accept the truth of who we are and the truth of who they are, and not try to make ourselves be less than or more than. We are all the same. And the more we can connect with the truth of the divinity that's inside all of us, it doesn't mean that we are above God. No, because how can we be? We're all connected, right? We are all the same, and we are all the part of the kingdom and the body of God, if you believe in a God, which I only do because of my own personal experiences, and it's not something that I didn't grow up in the church. I didn't grow up with a bunch of dogma put on me. So I actually read the Bible when I was, I think, 12 going on 13. And when I read part of the Old Testament and all of the New Testament, and the reason I did was because I had all these people I knew who were just like, well, we're going to Sunday school, and we believe in God and prayer and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. And it was clearly something. I mean, I'm in the Bible Belt of Oklahoma at the time, so it's clearly something that was important. And yet my parents, they were on a whole different path, so that wasn't something that was important to them at that time. And so I asked my mom, I said, are we Baptist, Methodist? What are we? And she says, well, Methodist. Fortunately, the Methodist Church, as I came to know, was one that was very accepting of allowing us to interpret what we read and not to make judgments about how we interpreted that information. And so as I read the New Testament, going in with the question of what is God? What is God? What is that? That's when it became alive to me, because I read in the New Testament the things that Jesus said repeatedly, and now I see, Mary Magdalene and many of the apostles also teach this, and many other great masters of the world teach this. God is love, and we are all made of that love. That we were born in love and made of love, and we are love, and that's all that we are. That's all that any of this is. That's what holds all of our atoms together, is the energy of love. It's bigger than what my 13-year-old mind could comprehend at the time. And then I had to go through a lifetime of experiences of learning what God love isn't, so that I could come to this place of being more connected to what is the truth. And so learning that we are all sons and daughters of Christ. We never came to this world with sin. We came to this world in love. And yes, we will carry our past experience with us, but that isn't necessarily sin. Sin in the terms of the traditional church looking at what sin is. And when many of the traditional churches, both Abrahamic and others, will see it as a condemnation, like we are bad and wrong because we have this sin. And in truth, the word sin doesn't mean that. What it means is I've made a mistake. How hard is it for us to admit that we've made mistakes? I know a lot of us really struggle with that. I know I have. When somebody points out something that I did that doesn't work for them or work in the world, or if I even discover it for myself, which is probably more often than not, and that struggle with, am I a terrible, horrible person because I've made this mistake? And so then we grow up with this idea, and we get punished, right? We get punished for our mistakes as a kid. So we're taught that we are sinners in a way, right? We're taught that we are wrong and bad, and that we just have to really work at it to be good, which keeps us actually stuck and keeps us from being able to take that quote mistake, that thing that happened that didn't work correctly, and learn from it. Because then instead of looking at what it is that we did that caused the problem, we're looking at ourselves and criticizing ourselves and going into shame and beating ourselves up and not appreciating and accepting and loving ourselves at all. Because that's kind of how we were, most of us, raised to be. And that's an error. That in itself is a huge error. And we have to learn how to correct that for ourselves so that we can correct it for the people around us, right? So when we're at the grocery store and somebody in front of us is, dropping their coins, and the cashier is frustrated, and, you see all these things happening that are not working, it's real easy to get frustrated. It's real easy to get irritated with that, right? And I think that's pretty darn common for us to do. And when we do that, then we get drug into this way of thinking and feeling and believing about ourselves and other people that energetically is just off. We don't feel good, they don't feel good. They pick up on our energy, we pick up on theirs, and we're all reacting in this way that we walk away from feeling shameful, when there is another alternative. We can see their humanness and accept their humanness and accept our own humanness. It's like, yeah, the human part of me is really frustrated right now because I needed to get to an appointment and I'm still standing here waiting to get through this line. And it's easy for us to get caught up in that and not realize, oh, maybe I should have scheduled myself a little better, huh? With ADHD, that's something that we almost always have to deal with, as is evidenced by the fact that I hardly ever start on time here. And being willing to admit and face our part of it, right? This would not irritate me at all if I had nowhere to go and I was just like, okay, I'm free, it's all good, just take your time. That's a whole different thing, right? Which is about what's going on inside of me, not what's happening with them at all. It has nothing to do with what they're doing or not doing. It has everything to do with how I'm experiencing it in the moment, how I'm thinking about it because of what I have set myself up. And in the past, I might have been like, oh God, yeah, I should have given myself more time. What was I thinking? And then I started judging myself, which is not any more useful than judging them. But we have to come to a place where we can be curious about, I wonder why that's happening. What is it that, and this is the difference between, the acceptors, the believers, and the seekers, is we seek to understand what is it that set this up to happen? What is it that I need to do differently? What is it that I can do to help out here? What is it? And be curious and less reactive to those things around us that cause us frustrations, and generally just coming across with that love that we are. In our human brains, because of the way we're wired, is to stay stuck in that ego battle of it's you or me. And when we get stuck in that ego battle of it's either you or me, then we're not being loving to ourselves or anyone else. And so in order to move out of that, we have to be aware that those things happen in our head, right? They're going to happen. We're going to feel that little irritation. We're going to feel that annoyance. We're going to start thinking badly about ourselves sometimes. It's okay. It's just the way our brains work, and it's okay. But rather than doing that, most of the time, most of us will really struggle to admit that, really struggle to accept that, I can do things wrong from time to time and wish I hadn't. And I don't have to feel shame. I can feel some regret, but I don't have to feel shame. And I certainly don't have to beat myself up about it. And I don't have to beat the other person up about whatever mistake they're making, because we're all making mistakes all the time. I do it every day, multiple times a day. And being willing and able to own that, own what I'm feeling, own my part in it, own their divinity and my own, and just say, okay, well, I will tell you this information because it's helpful for you. If it's not helpful for you, let it go. But it was helpful for me to have this information for me. And coming at that respectful, empathetic way of communicating is so challenging when it's our partners. I was just having this conversation with somebody that because our partners are so important to us, much more so than the cashier or the guy standing in front of you in the line at the grocery store, is our partner's perception of us, our partner's commitment to us, our partner's willingness to help us, our partner's willingness to be a partner with us, all of those things become more and more important over time, which makes us even more reactive because, oh my gosh, I can't risk this, right? It starts to get that ego brain, that self-protective part of our brain kicked in, and we react rather than respond to situations. It's so easy to just react when, especially if you're in a discussion with your partner or someone else and that might be important in your life, and they come at you with anger. It's instinctive to come back at them with anger, right? That's just how our old brains are wired to respond. So it takes a lot of practice to get to a place where we can recognize that part of us is coming forward and telling us, oh, you need to be protective, you need to take care of yourself, you need to defend yourself. That part can take over in a fraction of a second, and we lose connection with that other person because now we're in our stuff. We're looking at how their behavior affects us instead of recognizing that, oh, there's something going on with this person. I wonder what it is. Let's be curious. What's going on? What happened just now? Can you tell me more about that? So that I can understand you better and come from a place of acceptance and love and recognition of their humanity and our own humanity. And it's even okay to go, you know what, I felt very irritated when you said that just now, but I recognize that there's something going on with you. What the heck is going on? Can you tell me more? Can you tell me more about what it was that upset you so that I can look at the need that wasn't fulfilled right there? Maybe it's a misunderstanding. Maybe it's something going on with you from earlier in the day. You need a hug. Who knows? But coming at it from that kind of curiosity shifts everything in how you perceive whatever it is that's happening between you. And it helps you move into that place of acceptance of others and of yourself. Because it is normal and natural to have a reaction when somebody's yelling at you, right? It is normal and natural to feel frustrated when you have someplace to be and there's things in your way. And that's the traffic situation. Right off, we get stuck in traffic and we're like, oh gosh, this is taking 5 times longer than it should. And it's normal and natural for us to have those reactions. What is important as spiritual beings is to be able to move into a place of paying attention and noticing that human side, not condemning it, not criticizing it, acknowledging it, accepting it. It's like, yeah, okay, that's really annoying. What can I do about this situation right now? Accepting that we're irritated, accepting that we had this emotional response, being able to take ownership of it and not fall into blame, like, oh, well, if that guy just hadn't moved over into that lane, if that guy just would move a little faster, we want to put it on everybody else, but it's really about what's going on inside of us. That's it. And this is how we move out of being sort of a believer in that things have to be a certain way, or just kind of accepting whatever, it is what it is, and just living with the anxiety and the frustration and the anger. Instead, to be acknowledging that and go, I just noticed I had a reaction to that. I wonder what that's about. So I just realized my battery's about dead, so I guess it's about time for me to wrap this up today. Hi, Becky. It's nice to have you here. And I noticed someone else is here earlier. But I am Melody Brooke. I try to be here every Monday at now 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. I guess that's 8 p.m. Eastern Time and 5 p.m. Western Time, West Coast Time. But in any case, I try to be here to talk about the things that I start noticing in my own self and in the people that I know, and my learnings and my questions that I come up with for myself and for the people in my life, and share some of the wisdom that I've I've gained, and I know there's a lot of us that have been fortunate enough to live as long as I have, that we have some wisdom and we can connect with other people through that wisdom, as long as we don't think that we're better than. Because, I mean, I'm going to screw things up. That is guaranteed. I'm ADHD. It's going to happen. And it's going to happen because I'm human. And the more accepting we can become of ourselves, the more accepting then we can become of others, and the less judgmental, and the more able to have an understanding of ourselves that we have, the more deeply connected with our inner self we are, the more spiritual we are able to be in our daily interactions, and we step out of that blame shame cycle and more into that loving, empathetic, respectful place of compassion for ourselves and everybody else. And that's what my book is about. It's, oh wow, this changes everything. But even when I wrote that book, I didn't have the understanding that I do now, because that was a long time ago now. But it's still very true. It's still very, very true. And it's kind of a simple way to understand what I'm saying. It gives a very sort of graphic depiction, outline of how to do this. And then you'll start to integrate it more. And the more you start to integrate it, the more you understand the bigness of it and the spirituality of it and the beauty of it, and how we can learn to live in this very messed up world that still allows us to be forgiving and loving and respectful, even if as horrific things happen. So you can find out more about me on melodybrook.com. And I have a book, I have movies, I have music now on Spotify and SoundCloud, soon to be released through CD Baby. So they'll be on a lot of different channels. I can't stop creating. And if I get bored with one, I'm going to switch to another. I don't know if anybody else in the world can appreciate it or enjoy it as much as I do. That's okay. I don't even mind. I just enjoy the doingness, the creativity of it, because and maybe this is another talk to have at some point, creativity is what brings us closer, because we are in the image of God. God was the creator, right? So that's us. We are creators. Oh, look at that. I've actually got 6 people on, and I hate to go because I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts and to get more interaction. That's something I'm really, really seeking, is more interaction, more questions, more thoughts. If I sound stupid, if I've made a mistake in something I've said, which undoubtedly I have, I'd love to know about it. It's not a conflict to me for you to disagree with me. It's not a conflict for me for you to give me feedback about something that affected you. In fact, last week I said something that really hurt somebody, and I was like, I had no idea that it would come across like that, and I was so sorry that it did. But I also know that that's as much about her as it was about me, but that is important information for me to have. I need to know how I'm impacting people. Otherwise, I'm just wandering around doing my own thing and have no relationship with those around me. And even you guys out there in the virtual world, I'm having an impact of some sort, or you wouldn't have stayed with me here at all. And the fact that I'm having some, I'd love to know more about that. What is that impact? Positive, negative, doesn't matter. It's all good.